And for example, one of the best academics who in fact taught Professor Manganyi psychology is Dr. Habas. The present Dr. Habas, who's the chancellor of UNISA, is his brother. Yes. Brilliant psychologist. So there was a plan within the Broederbond to send the best scholars to make sure that the policy looked respectable. In 1970, there was a change in Broederbond plan. I won't say much, but the second phase sent to black universities scholars who were of far inferior to the ones who started the black universities. I mean, blow for blow, you can see a change, a shift in policy. There was also a time when in some of the African universities, they even offered third-class PhDs, which is an anomaly. Third-class PhDs, and the third-class PhDs would be sent to the black universities in the second phase. The second phase. So that was so the first phase, we had a lot of respect for the staff because of the brilliant academics. I mean, we were fascinated by Potgieter, for instance. You go to anybody, even Professor Manganyi, if you want to talk to him, I hope you'll find an interview. He'll tell you we had a lot of respect for Professor Potgieter as an academic, but we disagreed with him on everything else. You know? So I think that there's always been tension between the SLC and the staff. But why between 1960 and 1972 there was not a much of a stir. There were strikes, but nothing as ongoing and as deep as what happened after 72, is because the liberation movement also at that time wasn't as well organized as it was later. So I think it's important to locate the student unrest within the context. We were just to come out of Sharpeville in 1959. And the liberation movements were all banned. They ran, underground. And there was very little organized political activity on the surface, you see. And that affected the student movement. There's two student organizations that were very active in the early 60s, ASUSA and ASA. ASA was the African Student Association, which was pro-ANC. ASUSA, African Student Union of South Africa, which was pro-PAC. All those two organizations also were banned. So there was a kind of lull, apparent lull. There were tensions, would strike for food, strike for beer, strike for that, strike for that, strike for an SSC. But there was no vigorous student movement in the country. It was a slow build-up until 1972 with Abraham Tiru's speech. Yeah. So that was a trend. In 1970, I think the University of the North became independent. So, you see, and that is significant also. That in 1970 became independent. Then there was more of a build-up because the repression became more acute. And of course, the liberation movements were becoming more, better organized outside the country and the country as a whole. Yeah. So those are the patterns really of student, the relationship between staff and students. The black staff was I think apolitical, maybe. For people like Professor Nzangwisi, these are people who were Bantu education inspectors. They were the good boys of Bantu education. Most of them. Professor Zangwisi, Professor Hware, Professor Lechela, Professor... If you look at their history, they came out of the Department of Bantu Education, and they were sent to Teflop to continue their good work. And so on and so on and so on. Yeah. But they didn't have power then. Teflop had two councils at the beginning, There was a council which was all white, and an advisory council which was all black, consisting of people like, Chief Mpepu and other people in Zangwisi. So they were not a force to reckon with. They were sent, to go and keep order in the dining hall, in the dorms, but they had no major role to play at the university.
Thank you. You obtained two masters. Obtained two master's degrees. One you did at Leeds. I just want to understand why the second master's and what were they for respectively?
No, those, I don't think like any black, I don't think it was something that was planned. It's, I felt like leaving the country, I felt like going somewhere, and there was opportunity but I don't think it was something that was premeditated. The British Council had a scholarship, and then I made use of that.
Okay.
But I don't think, and the first master's was purely on literature. The second one was a combination of linguistics and literature. But there's nothing really planned in my mind. I just had an opportunity to go to England, and that was it.
Okay.
And I think that also, I must say, when I went to Leeds, I think politically it was very important because I did work there on Ezekiel Mpahlele's works. Okay. And I studied how alienation affected the minds of, of Africans here, and how it affected the way we write, poetry, fiction, and stuff like that. But it was not a premeditated thing.
After graduating from the university, what options were there generally for students?
Well, my generation, you were either a teacher. Well, in my family, we grew. You were either a teacher or a nurse. Even library science was a foreign profession to us. If you look at the curriculum of the University of the North those days, 85% of the students were in the arts. 10% came from the sciences, really. One of the most difficult courses to pass at TEFLOP the early years was chemistry. And it was deliberate, because chemistry was a requirement for the sciences. And they made sure that even the people who came to TEFLOP with an M1 failed chemistry. You'd pass everything else and failed chemistry for years. And yet at Forte then, chemistry was the most popular course under the University of Rhodes. Some of the major chemists in the country who are now in industry graduated at Forte in chemistry. But at TEFLO, there was a deliberate attempt to frustrate the black students by making chemistry impossible to pass. Impossible to pass. And I know quite a number of my friends who came with first-class passes, distinctions in metric, who wouldn't pass chemistry. They will pass everything else, physics, mathematics, everything else except chemistry. And then I took it up with Professor Potgieter, I think it was 1964. I said, but why is it that, chemistry is an impossible course at the University of the North? and the easiest course to pass at Fort Hare. He said to me that research had been done on Fort Hare's chemistry department, and they found out that those are not true chemists, but communists. They were producing communists in the name of chemistry. So that was his answer. And they're all over the world now with those same chemists. Yeah. It would be very interesting if you could study how the curriculum was so designed at the University of the North to make sure that it didn't produce any scientists. Yeah. There are people who survived. They survived because they went to Wentworth. People like Dr. Rampila Mampila, they survived because they went to Wentworth. Prof. Samulepo, who went to Germany, got a PhD in wet chemistry, went to cancer, became in charge of a cancer institute, wouldn't pass chemistry 100 at TEFLOP. Dr. Ben Marengwa, who went to the University of Hamburg and got a PhD with me at Leeds in the earth inner sciences, wouldn't pass chemistry 1 at TEFLOP. And so forth, and so forth, and so forth. Throughout, there are all sorts of people who wouldn't pass chemistry 1. And it was designed to make sure that African students didn't turn out well.
Okay. During your early years as a lecturer at the university, what was the relationship between black staff and white staff?
Oh, wow. You remind me of it. Firstly, it was we had 2 organizations, one black and one white. I'm sure Toko will tell you a story of that. And at an early age, I was elected chairman of the Black Staff Association, which became so infamous, in the country. Let's look at the conditions of service of both black and white. When I was appointed temporary junior lecturer at TEFLOP for, I think, 3 years. I couldn't be made permanent for a number of reasons. One of the reasons that were given by Professor Potgieter and later by Professor Boshoff was that I wasn't loyal to the state. Yeah, he said loyalty. We didn't have what they called loyalty to me and other people at the university. We were earning 45% of our white counterparts. Even the most senior from Hware upward, all blacks earned in the mid-60s 45% of what the whites earned. We had to take it up at the Black Staff Association. We fought it out so hard. We even, and the students got involved with us. We fought it out very, very hard and said, if you don't change this, we're going to stop teaching. And much later, that was corrected, but much later. So that in itself tells you exactly the kind of relationship. It didn't matter how highly qualified you were. I'll give you an example. When I did honors English, that was in 1962, 63. I completed BA in 1961. I had 2 lecturers, Professor Smarts and Mr. Eccles. Mr. Eccles has just a BA degree in English. But when I did BA honors, he was my lecturer. And we're doing honors together with UNISA, but he taught me. That was in 1962.